it's been a minute since we did a YouTube video, and I just got the M6 in the mail. And I'm gonna go right now and shoot probably 2 rolls of black and white just so that I can get some practice in this camera before I throw in some Portra 400. I'm gonna develop that rolls by myself and scan it and then see what the photos look like. And of course, the first thing I guess you have to do is take a selfie, right? So I'm gonna go to my bathroom and take a mirror selfie, I guess. Okay, I just realized I don't have any batteries for the meter. I'm guessing 1.4, this is like maybe 30. I don't want to be too blurry, so 1.4, let's just do 40. I don't know, I really don't know. Okay, first photo, here we go. Oh my goodness. All right, this is when I found out that the rangefinder is a little complicated at first, to say the least. I shot a lot of film on different cameras, but I've never shot on a Leica rangefinder, so it was a bit confusing at first. And usually, like, let's just say my FM2, Nikon FM2, you focus so that like there's like a line in the middle, and you focus and you line up that line. The rangefinder actually has like a square in the middle. So instead of like that line in the middle and you're lining it up, I think the AE1 is the same as the FM2, maybe I'm wrong, but there's a square. And so the square, you have to like line up to the image. So it took me, I don't know, it took me a few minutes to do it, and I did it. And the photo came out great, thankfully. All right, so we were at Long's to get the batteries, and there's this crazy thing going on over here. I feel like I need to take a photo of this. So I'm gonna put the batteries in, get the meter going, and then come back out here. And this is probably gonna be my second photo of the day. All right, so one thing already that I kind of, I don't want to say I don't like about this, but what I liked about my other film camera that I had before this one, which is the Nikon FM2, is that the shutter speed was up to 4,000. And so I like to push my black and white film 2 stops, which means I'm shooting this at 1600, which means, you know, f16 and the highest here is 1,000. It's going to be overexposed for sure. All right, so for like the last, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 months, I've been shooting on my Leica Q3. And so going back to film, it's so different. I know it's such a cliche when people say you have to slow down more, but it's crazy. Like I only shot maybe 20 shots or so, 19. And if I had my Q3, I would have shot at least maybe 100 shots by now. Just like that, that was my first roll of film on my new Leica M6. Well, not really new, obviously it's like 30, 40 years old, but I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna go back to my bag and get another roll of HP5 and then maybe get 36 more exposures before the sun goes down. I think I got like maybe 45 minutes or so. Alright, so as you can tell, there are some pretty bad light leaks to this image, or to these images you're about to see, and that is totally my error. When I develop film, I developed it myself on this system called Ego processor or something like that. But anyways, in the dark bag, when I was putting the film onto the spool, for some reason it just wasn't loading. And so obviously you'll see a lot of scratches as well on the images, because I was getting so frustrated. I haven't developed film for like 6 months or so. So I kind of lost the muscle memory. So what I did was I had to take the film out of the spool. I put it in, this thing here, and I closed the lid, and then I had to figure this thing out. And I opened it and I exposed it to light, and I realized that the lid wasn't on completely. It was it was kind of leaking. So I hurried up and I threw it back in the bag real quick, but obviously there was some light leakage, but it actually turned out pretty cool. I think, with film, the reason why I love working with film is because there's always these beautiful mistakes, is what I call them. So yeah, that's the reason why. There's nothing wrong with the camera or the lens. It was totally user error during the development stage, which was my bad. But I like it.
My soul, and I just found love with a 45 that kept alive in a box over 30 years old. And I don't know what it is, but there's something there. I hear that needle scratching, vinyl catching, warmth you can't compare. It's lo-fi, and when the static moans, tape hisses and the beat breaks through your bones.
So the truth is, I've always wanted to own the Leica M6 because of the heritage, because it's so iconic, because of the history that's involved, because of the images that this camera has documented over the decades, or maybe even century. And now that I own this camera, it feels like I have this sense of confidence that I'm able to document historic events, even if it's just moments in my neighborhood. It makes every time I press the shutter so much more rich, so much more meaningful than, say, using my Nikon FM2 or my other Canon film camera. And I know that sounds silly, and it's mainly a placebo effect, but I just know how much history that is involved in this camera that makes my user experience so much more fulfilling. I've always wanted to own this camera, and it seems like whenever I have the bug to buy this camera, I always bought cheaper cameras so that I could kind of feed that itch for this camera, but I couldn't afford this camera, so I'll just buy another camera just to curve that itch until I can get to this camera. So now that I own this camera, I'm not gonna say I'm no longer gonna feed my gear addiction, because obviously now I have Leica M glass that I can purchase, which is probably endless and really, really expensive. But I don't have the buyer's remorse like I did when I bought the Q3. When I bought the Q3, I had buyer's remorse. It was really, really bad. Bad anxiety, going back and forth if I should return it or not, or resell it. I did not have that for a single second with the M6. I think the reason why I didn't have buyer's remorse with the Leica M6 is because I know what I was getting. Technically, this is not a better quality camera than a Nikon FM2, which I own, or the Canon AE1. And I guess you could argue and say, actually, Leica makes way better photos than a Canon or a Nikon. But I'm not going to spend tens of thousands of dollars on a Summilux lens. Right now I have the Thypoc lens. And honestly, when I got the photos back, I did not see any difference, any quality difference between this camera and the Nikon or the Canon that I own. Because I did not buy it for better quality. I bought it for the Leica M6 experience. And I think also I didn't have buyer's remorse because I'm not comparing this to any other camera that I own, which as when I had the Q3, I compared this to like my R5 and some of my other cameras that I own. I think M6 kind of sits in its own category. Nothing close to any other film camera or digital camera for that matter. It's its own thing. Okay, so let's talk about the build quality. It is heavy. It is heavier than I thought it would be. And that's a good thing because it feels rich in your hand. It feels luxurious in your hand. Everything is metal. And one thing that I actually did like was the rangefinder. And I know the reason why people pick these cameras up is because of the rangefinder. And the reason why people don't want to pick this up is because of the rangefinder. It took me a minute to get used to it, but once I got used to it, it was just so simple. It seems like there isn't a wall blocking you from the image that you want to create, making you more closer and intimate to the image that you're making. I don't know if that makes sense. But cameras like this, where there's a mirror, even like these film cameras, there's a mirror in here. Like you're looking through a mirror through the lens, and it kind of has like this separation from you and the subject or the object or the image that you want to make. Whereas this, you're just looking at what you're about to capture, and it makes, I guess, the experience more intimate because there's no walls blocking you or no mirrors blocking you between you and the image you want to capture. All right, so I want to talk about the only gripe I have about this camera, and that is the ergonomics. It just doesn't feel sturdy when you're holding the camera like this. First of all, this is like a $4,000 camera, and there is really nowhere to put your fingers on to wrap around this camera. This camera is heavy and expensive, so the whole time I'm like squeezing this camera to make sure I don't drop it, even though I have a wrist strap. Like my Canon, obviously this is not a fair comparison because this is made to be, holding it like this, big camera. It has a grip. It feels good in the hand. My other film camera, my medium format camera, the Pentax 645, has a grip, like a beautiful grip, right? My Q3, yeah, I did put these thumb grip on it, but it has a little indentation for your thumb that makes it easy to hold on to. But I did add the finger grip here and the thumb grip on the Q3 because I think the Q3 also had that problem of it just felt like it was gonna fall through my fingers if I wasn't squeezing it extremely tight. So yeah, I did have to buy the thumb grip for this camera and the hand grip for this camera because I found after shooting for about an hour, my fingers were getting sore because I was squeezing the camera so tight, even though I had a wrist strap. All right, so that concludes my first week of using the Leica M6. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you at the next one.